Hi, my name is Nora O'Connell. I am a recent college graduate of Georgia Tech. Super exciting stuff. I'm also a prolific crafter. I started a craft club at my school and I invested a lot of time in my arts and craft, particularly in embroidery. I have newfound free time for the first time in my life in like 3.5 years. I don't start my full-time job until September and it's June. So I have a little bit to take some time off. I am going to try to do a different craft or creative pursuit each day this week. So for 7 days, I'm going to be doing something entirely different. I talked about this in a previous video that barely any people saw. And I don't like to work on a ton of different things at once. I get a huge amount of satisfaction from finishing a project, so usually that provides a lot of motivation for me to just work on that thing alone. But a lot of these can be completed in a shorter amount of time, and it would be good to build my skill set in areas that I don't feel as competent. Here are all the crafts I'm gonna do. I might not do them in order depending on the vibe I'm feeling for that day, but I'm gonna work on crochet, which I do have experience in. I've made a decent amount of things, pretty much exclusively granny square stuff, because that's what I've always felt most comfortable in doing. Watercolor, I have the teensiest amount of experience in this. I have taken a beginner watercolor class at the Callenwald Art Center in Atlanta. Needle felting, I have made one needle felting piece. Machine sewing. So I haven't machine sewn consistently since 2020. Obviously, like everyone in COVID lockdown was into things like that. I've always wanted to get better at it. I think the prospect of making your own clothes is super cool to me. So I want to try to begin doing that for a beginner. Oil pastels. I have made a few drawings in oil pastels. I really enjoy it. I am going on a trip to Europe in August and I want to find some things that I can do creatively that are good ways to memorialize my trip, and then also things that are pretty portable and I can take around really easily. Bead embroidery. I spend a ton of time embroidering. That was like my first craft I've ever done, and it's definitely the craft that I would say I'm the strongest in from a technical standpoint. For a lot of other things, I don't feel like I'm quote-unquote good at them, but embroidery is something that I have a confidence in that I would say that I am good at it. Bead embroidery is super trendy nowadays, which I think it's great, especially if it's encouraging more people to get involved in creativity and crafting, and I definitely want to try it. I have kind of a distinct aesthetic with embroidery, and so it'll be hard to translate to bead embroidery. I also am on some other platforms for crafting with very few people, but that's okay. Gotta be consistent, right? So I have a crafting Substack, Instagram, Pinterest, and then I finally got back into TikTok. I wasn't a fan of the direction the platform was going in, but you know, it is what it is. For my crochet project, I'm starting a top that I've already done. It's the Gaia top from Liz and Hooks on Etsy. I love her. I made this color scheme for a game day, so I'm just making it in another one. The only thing is I did the back differently to just allow it to fit to me a little bit better. Hopefully I still remember how to crochet because I haven't done it in forever. Also, here are the yarn colors. It's like 11:30 p.m. I'm in bed, which is a pretty realistic depiction of how I do crochet because I do like a lot of crochet in my bed. Sometimes when I don't get as much of a project done as I would like to, or feel like I'm not being as much of a productive crafter, I can get really frustrated with it, and just the nature of my personality, sometimes I need to remind myself that there's no stress behind this. You know, hobbies are supposed to be fun. And I think by doing something different every single day, it helps encourage that mentality, because more often than not, I'm not finishing a large and super involved project in a day. I think tomorrow I'm going to do something entirely different. So probably leaning towards oil pastels, but depends on how I feel in the morning. Hey, it's day 2, oil pastel day. It's around 5 p.m. in the evening, so I didn't work at it at all during the day, but I must say that I was productive. My friend and I went on a 3-mile walk, and we also started moving some things from my apartment. I'm doing oil pastel today because it is different than crochet, and I just wanted a break from that. So for me, kind of at this stage in oil pastel, I'm pretty new. I don't have a lot of experience under my belt, so I think I'm gonna just follow some tutorials and see where those lead. Right, here's the supplies that I'm starting with. I just have a bunch of the cheap Pentel oil pastels, and then I also got some pastel papers. I'm definitely struggling through a tutorial right now. I'm hoping it's a trust the process moment, but we shall see. Maybe not trusting the process here. The tutorial that I was following, the woman had these very beautiful, very vibrant pastels. And it's just a little hard to do with these, but trying our best, and it's okay to learn something new. I think I'm done with this. A little bit of a flop, but you know what? That's okay. I am just having fun at this point. I'm just doing a bunch of flowers, filling up the page, and I think I'm challenging myself again with the learning process. I'm using cheap materials on oil pastel paper, experimenting, drawing, following tutorials, and just filling up a page, not caring what it looks like. So honestly, kind of fun, relaxing, therapeutic. I've been doing this for about an hour and a half. Okay, I'm sitting on my floor because the lighting's a lot better. Finished up my oil pastel day. Used different tutorials I found online and just sort of freestyled. I think part of me doing this is helping reinforce the fact that it's okay to be bad at things. I don't think these look particularly good. I used super cheap oil pastels, not the nicest paper, and I have very, very limited experience doing it in limited time since I'm only giving myself one day. So, am I overall thrilled with the quality of the artwork? Probably not, but it's also okay for art to just sit in a sketchbook or a artist pad until you want to do that again. Not everything has to be display worthy. So this is a good exercise in not having to finish everything, and then also just being bad at things. Okay, today is day 3 of doing a different craft every single day. Honestly, I've been a lot busier than I thought I would be this week, which is good. So I've been prioritizing seeing my friends, my family, getting active, and then I have some other things to do to trip plan and prepare for work. I have done needle felting once before, and honestly, I did really enjoy it. It is quite satisfying, and you can get a decent amount done in not too long of a time, which is a contrast to the work I've done with embroidery. I already have some needle felting supplies, so I won't have to buy anything else for this, which is really great because number 1, I'm moving, and number 2, I spend way too much money on craft supplies. I think for the design, I'm going to do something simple. I've seen some floral designs on Pinterest that would be cool. I like the look of landscapes, but I don't really feel like filling in a bunch of stuff. These are freaking sharp, so I'm going to be mindful to be super careful to not mess up my fingers. Okay, here's the design and some of the colors I'm going to use for the flower itself. Hopefully it goes well, but we'll see. We're learning. And then I'm using finger protection because if I poke myself with that, it's going to hurt. It's getting much harder to shape, as the felt that I'm using underneath it is losing its stiffness, but I'm almost done. So there you go. Needle felting is done. It honestly took me longer than expected, but I had barely any time to work on it yesterday because I had a lot more commitments pop up than I thought I would. which is great. It's hard because you don't get the precision always from some other things that I do, but it's super fun to relax. Today, I want to start machine sewing. For this challenge, I didn't like really pick days because I'm kind of going off what I want to do based on vibes. I need to paint something for my boyfriend, and so I kind of want to save some painting stuff for later. Another good thing about this challenge is I actually haven't had to buy that many things. Most of the things that I'm using I've already had, which is great. It's definitely giving me a good opportunity to utilize the craft supplies that I have and not go out and buy more things. The thing is, I need to go find somewhere I can print the pattern because it is few and far between to find a printer. I really hope that some of my campus access at Georgia Tech still works because hopefully I can just go there, go across the street, and get it printed. Now on to the sewing. I have a few hours to work on this. Sewing is what I am most intimidated by. I think there's so many ways that you can mess it up, and I haven't actually sewn on a machine. I've done a few finishing touches to embroidery projects in 5 years. I did sewing as a lockdown hobby, but I never did it very technically. I purchased a pattern from Etsy. I have the fabric I bought from Gail K Fabrics in Atlanta, and then I have like general sewing accessories. Here are the pattern pieces I just cut out from the Etsy pattern. It took me a while. I know it's a little bit janky, but progress, not perfection here. So now I'm gonna go into the fabric and just cut everything out. My friend and I are going to Book of Mormon in a few minutes at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, so I'm super excited. So many fun things keep on coming up this week, so I haven't had as much time to work on my creative stuff, but it's awesome. I love getting to spend time with my friends, especially since I have more time and flexibility now. Okay, where we're at on sewing is I kind of figured out how to put together the PDF pattern. Probably not very well, but I did. Cutting out the PDF pattern and then the pattern pieces kind of took forever, but I don't hate doing it. It's actually quite relaxing. I'm working on constructing the straps. Is so tough. Painstakingly folding and pinning them, and I think this will be the hardest part. This is the top. Is it like so unbelievably janky and poorly constructed? Yes, but I'm honestly like, I don't hate it. I don't hate it because it's like, if you think about it, it is a piece of clothing that came from a bolt of fabric, and then I made it all myself. Like, that's still pretty cool. I'm still like, I still finished it. I still did it. Does it fit a little weird? Does it look a little weird? Yes, but I'm still kind of happy with it. Good afternoon. It is day 5 or 6. I did spend 2 days working on the machine sewing project, but in my defense, I was working on a new craft that day and I really, really wanted to finish it. Today is watercolor. I plan on just following tutorials online. I think the composition of watercolor is really difficult, and until I have more experience under my belt, I think following along with some things would be really helpful. Here are a few things that I did in my class. So this was like an imitation of some of the Dutch masters paintings, as well as you can get in watercolor. This is like a cute little monochromatic landscape that I did. And here are a few blueberries. So the reason why I initially did a watercolor class was because, yes, I was interested in painting, but I also was operating under the erroneous assumption that watercolor is cheaper. And then I saw the supply list and it's $30 for some nice watercolor paper. Day 6 is bead embroidery. Almost done with the challenge. already started a bit with my friend yesterday. I honestly find it really super difficult. I'm so used to a typical embroidery background, so I thought it would be so much easier. So I've done like 2 leaves, or excuse me, 2 petals in my flower design. It's also a little hard to see, but I have never seen a needle like this. I just bought needles, like beading needles from Blick Art Store, and it has a center eye. I don't know if I like the center eye, but I really do like using a beading needle because it makes it so much easier, more malleable to pick up beads. So I definitely recommend a beading needle. I mean, the large center eye is fine. It's just a little unusual to work with because I've never used anything like it before. All right, so challenge has been over for quite a bit. I had to get my computer fixed at the Genius Bar, so I didn't have a computer for like a week, which totally knocked me off balance since I do basically everything on my computer. Didn't end up doing digital art. I went on an impromptu vacation with my family, and so I just kind of like threw the final day of the challenge out the window. Some time to reflect on everything. I think it was a really good opportunity for me to expand myself creatively and start embarking on a journey with new mediums. A thing that I really enjoy about crafting and art in general is sort of the mentality of there's no like get rich quick scheme. You know, like you don't wake up one day and you're incredible at embroidery. You don't wake up one day and you are so good at paint and watercolor. I think this is a good thing because I think it's a good lesson in learning how to be bad at things, which is, I believe, is essential to sort of developing as a person, particularly as a creative. The only thing is there's also a challenge within that because I think we like to be good at things. I think it's completely natural human emotion and feeling that there's a high level of satisfaction when we know we are good at something. I think for me, this has been particularly true. Have been very ambitious academically and pretty successful, and so sometimes relearning and understanding and appreciating how to actually be bad at something and embracing the learning process is something that I need to be continuously focusing on. Then I think another thing that makes projects like this challenging for me is I love to finish things. As a crafter, I do not like to leave any project, no matter how big or how small, undone. I don't have a lot of works in progress. I like to feel with each project before I move on to something else, unless it's an entirely different medium, that I'm finished with what I'm doing. Doing a different craft every day, especially with some things like machine sewing, bead embroidery, and even watercolor, it can be hard to get to that point of completion within a day. And so I would bleed into the next day trying to finish up whatever project I was doing. Like I wanted to finish the whole top and I wanted to finish the beaded embroidery piece that I had worked on. So that was one challenge. And then another thing was very fortunate. I turned to be a lot busier this week than I initially thought I was. I had a lot more plans with my friends and things come up socially where I want to prioritize getting out into the world and doing things. So I didn't have as much free time or time to focus on crafting as I initially anticipated going into this challenge, which is a good issue to have. But yeah, I think this was a good exercise. I'm definitely going to continue doing the things that I took part of. In terms of things that I enjoy, I know I enjoy crochet. I've done watercolor before. I'm a beginner, but I do enjoy it. Oil pastels is definitely something I want to continue to work on, especially since it's so portable for travel. The only issue is I think there are some material limitations to the super cheap type of oil pastels that I have. The only thing is the nicer you get, the more cost prohibitive it is. And the issue with oil pastels, especially from a financial perspective, is you can't really mix them the way that you can paint. So it is better to have a larger set of oil pastels if you want to have more creative flexibility. So like when I was following some of the tutorials for it, I didn't feel like I could accurately imitate what the individual was creating because I didn't have the right consistency of oil pastel. Needle felting, I enjoy the process of needle felting. I think it's hard sometimes to get the result that I want because in my creative practice, I like things that I can have a lot of control over. In needle felting, it's hard to create an intricate design. For machine sewing, getting back into it, I enjoy and I love the process of making something. I'm taking a beginner machine sewing class this weekend, which will hopefully help with some of the technical things and give me some insights. I'm doing it at Chastain Art Center, but I definitely plan on continuing to machine sew. I think my next series or set of projects is to do a sewing for Euro summer. So I'm excited to get started on that. But it is something that requires general progress and lots of practice to feel like you are making garments that look somewhat professional or like you would purchase in the store. Bead embroidery, I liked it. I don't love the look of the thing that I created. I think with bead embroidery, there's difficulty because you don't nearly have the same amount of control as you do with fibers. And so I sort of was challenged like filling in space. And I also think for bead embroidery, it is more important to have a very, I don't want to say consistent, but a very strong underlying design because it's much harder to create neat lines. So I think next time I do this, I will have a very consistent design, like a flower, all the petals are the same size and I traced it. And I also think that I prefer bead embroidery in a more practical setting. So hopefully I want to create some keychains or applique for clothes. I'm trying to think. I think that's everything I did. Yeah, that's everything.